All right. Well, it is 1 o'clock, so we'll get started. Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me here today. My name is Heidi Roth. I'm a registered dietitian as well as a certified health coach. So today we're going to be talking about sleep from A to Z's during COVID-19. And just a couple things, in case you didn't see my message before, we're going to go straight to 1:30, and at 1:30 I'll open it up for questions if anyone wants to stick around a little bit longer. The other thing is, if you do have a question while I'm talking, that's fine. You can put it in the chat box. I will try to answer it while I'm talking, but if not, I'll get to it afterwards. So let's get started. Grab my mouse here. All right, so how is everyone sleeping now? I don't know about you, but sleep might be a little bit disrupted, right? We have a lot of things going on. And please feel free to share in the chat box if you want how you're sleeping on a scale of 1 to 10. Hopefully it's pretty good, but I know that there's a lot of things that might, some challenges going on now, right? Okay, I'm seeing a couple of 5s, a couple of 8s, 9s. Okay, so different ranges. What do we have going on now? We have a lot more worry and anxiety. And this is also bi-directional. Not only does worry and anxiety prevent us from sleeping, but also the other way around too. When we don't sleep enough, it also amps up our worry and our anxiety as well. I know that we're all maybe on a different schedule. So maybe where we're used to getting up at 6 o'clock every day, all of us, in bed at 10, up at 6, that changes now. Different eating patterns. Maybe we're eating a little bit later at night. We're, going to bed maybe with a fuller stomach, out of our exercise routine. So just a lot of challenges to sleeping well, but obviously I would say probably the biggest one for all of us is maybe some worries and anxiety. That is probably the biggest challenge to helping us sleep well. So we know sleep is important for so many reasons. It's important for our heart health. It's important for brain health. It's important for our mood. But we know that sleep is also a natural immune booster. So at this time where we need sleep the most, it's doubly important that we could get good sleep. It helps the T cells attach to their targets, boost productions of cytokines. These are different proteins that are both involved in our immune function. And this is also bidirectional. So not only do we need sleep to improve our immune function, but what happens when we get sick? When we get sick, all we want to do is sleep. And that is actually our body's way of helping us to heal, helping us to fight viruses and different pathogens. And interestingly enough, our immune function also varies throughout the day. It's based on our circadian rhythm. Different parts of our immune function may be more powerful at night as well. And so there's been some interesting research and, just kind of theories that maybe we should give vaccines at a different time of day because it also can boost our immune function. And there's a strong correlation between our circadian rhythms and immune function. All right, so we know that sleep is so important. I'm going to focus on something called sleep hygiene. And sleep hygiene, is all of the habits and the things that we do to help us sleep well. I see that someone is also curious about eating and what we can do to sleep better, so we'll try and talk about that a little bit as well. So, as I mentioned, sleep hygiene is all the things that we do to help us sleep. So starting off, it's kind of a weird thing to talk about what we do during the day, but starting off what we do during the day is really important for helping us to sleep at night. And so starting with sunlight, what I had mentioned before are circadian rhythms. Our circadian rhythms are a 24-hour cycle, and it's our body's way of telling us when to sleep and when to be awake. And natural sunlight exposure helps us to set our circadian rhythm and helps us to be awake during the day and sleepy at night. There's two main hormones that are also involved in helping us to be sleepy when we should be and awake when we should be. And those are cortisol and melatonin. And so what sunlight does is in the morning when we open up our shades and we get that sunlight in and that blue light, it helps to produce cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone, but it helps us to get out of bed. If we didn't have any cortisol in the morning, we would just want to stay in bed for pretty much the whole day. Conversely, what sunlight also does, and that, that blue light that we get during the day, it helps your body to produce something called melatonin. And melatonin is a chemical that helps us to sleep at night. So best thing to do to help us set our circadian rhythm is open the blinds in the morning, allow that light in, and and even during the day, spending as much time outside as possible. In an ideal world, we would even take a walk first thing in the morning. I happen to have a dog, so this works out well for me. But even if you don't, taking a 10-minute walk in the morning can be helpful. And even if the sun isn't out, we still get those UV rays that emit that blue light. So we get, the sunlight is beneficial, but even if the sun isn't out and it's a cloudy day, we're still going to get those UV rays that helped us to set our sleep-wake cycle. And so then we know that we want sunlight during the day. How about during the nighttime? So big part of sleep hygiene is creating the best sleep environment possible. And this starts with dark room. So where we had talked about before about getting that sunlight during the day, that darkness is also what tells our body that it's time to sleep. And if you think of through thousands of years, before we had all these artificial lights, what would happen is, during the day we'd get sun, and at night it would be very, very dark. There was no, other than the light from the moon, there was no artificial light coming from the street lights or any place else. And so the more that we can recreate this, the better that we're going to sleep. Another big part of sleeping well is the temperature of our room. So ideally, we would want our room to be about 65 degrees at night. I know a lot of people maybe have it up more at 70, but really what happens at night is also based on your circadian rhythm, is that your body's temperature, your core temperature naturally drops. So it drops to about 2 to 3 degrees from what it is during the day. And then in the morning, your core body temperature also then increases. But if we can sleep in a cool room, it can be really, really helpful. Since this pandemic started, one of the things that I had noticed for myself is that I was having a hard time sleeping, right? All the worries and anxieties and what ifs. And so I did a couple things to help me. And one of them was I made my room even darker than it was. I don't have, I got, did some adjustment with my shades and curtains, and so now it's a lot darker. And what I also did was I opened my window a little bit. And by opening my window, I get a lot more of that cooler air in through the night. And what's nice too is that you're getting some fresh air. So fresh air, cool air, and you don't want it to be too cold, so I just raise my window about that much, and I have found it has made a huge difference in how I've been sleeping. Obviously, comfortable blankets and pillows. You want it to be, keep you warm, but not too warm, and so that it's the right temperature. Loose fitting clothing, nothing restrictive. Once again, the nice flannel PJs are nice and cozy, but if they're making you too warm during the night, you won't really sleep as well as if you have maybe a little bit more bare skin on the sheets. And then obviously to a quiet space with no distractions or noises. And if you have some ambient noise in the background, maybe you get some earplugs, a white noise machine, those can be helpful for a lot of people as well. Some things to avoid. excessive napping, and obviously close to bed. So, you don't need me to tell you that if you take a 1 hour nap at 7 o'clock at night, you're probably not going to be tired when it's time to go to bed. So, you know, for some people, napping works really well. I like this idea of a nappuccino. So a nappuccino, if you haven't heard about nappuccinos, raise your hand if you've heard of a nappuccino, but it's kind of brilliant, I think. So if you want to take a nap, maybe in the afternoon around 2 o'clock or so, you don't want it to be longer than 20 to 25 minutes. And so if you have a little coffee or a little caffeine at that time, and then you go take a nap about 20, 25 minutes, that's how long it takes for that caffeine to kind of, kick in. And so then when you're ready to get up from your nap, then you have that caffeine kind of kicking in, and you're fine. You can get up, no problem. Now, keeping in mind, knowing if you're a fast metabolizer or a slow metabolizer of caffeine is really important. And this is genetic. And so for some people, this would be the worst idea in the world, right? Having caffeine at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I know my friend Dawn, I think she's on here today. She can't have any caffeine in the afternoon, and after, I think 11 is the last time, right? But, genetics. So for me, I can have a caffeine right before bed and not think twice about it and go to sleep, no problem. The other thing too is you don't want a lot of alcohol close to bed. What alcohol does is it initially makes you tired, but it does disrupt your sleep. And so typically what you find with alcohol, and especially more than 1 or 2 drinks, is that you'll end up waking up in the middle of the night, and then you won't be able to go back to sleep. So as much as possible, avoiding, having that glass of wine maybe with dinner, but then nothing else closer to bed. Avoiding food or large meals before bed. And this, once again, depends for different people. You don't want to, have some blood sugar issues during the night. And for some people, they do better with a small snack right before bed. But the reason that you want to avoid a large meal is that it can cause a little bit of indigestion, more likely to get reflux, and, waking up with pain is never fun. So trying a small snack for some people can be beneficial. Maybe just a tablespoon of almond butter on a cracker, or some peanut butter. Maybe you have a small apple with a small slice of cheese. Basically what you're looking for is a little bit of protein and some a complex carbohydrate. You don't want to be snacking on cookies right before bed and something, an unhealthy snack. But in an ideal world, that's how it would be. Another thing, and I just, in terms of nutrition, we don't have a ton of time to get into nutrition, but there's been some suggestion that a high fiber diet can also be really beneficial for helping us to sleep well. And there's several theories on why a high fiber might be beneficial. We know that fiber is important for our gut microbiome. And so by having a healthy gut microbiome, our gut microbiome is interconnected with so many things in our body, and that might be one of the reasons why it's helpful. A high fiber diet, some people postulate that some of the fiber maybe can absorb some of the excess hormones that might cause us to be more awake, perhaps even cortisol, help kind of bind those in our gut. So we're not really quite sure of the exact reasons, but if you find that you're looking to change your nutrition a little bit, adding more fiber in, whether it's in the form of raspberries, blackberries, beans, whole grains, nuts and seeds, peas, that may be really helpful too, not only for helping you sleep, but just for your overall health. Some other things to avoid would be nicotine. Is a stimulant, so obviously any type of stimulant other than nicotine, and then blue light. So once again, it all comes back to the light. Blue light is emitted, it's the type of light that we get from the sun. And so during the day, it's wonderful for waking us up and help us to be alert during the day, but at night, it can interfere with the production of melatonin. So we really do want to avoid some of that blue light. And yes, I'm seeing somebody's asking about warm milk. Does that help you sleep? Actually, yes, it there's a lot of anecdotal evidence that warm milk can potentially help you sleep. To be honest, I haven't looked at the studies, but I would suggest between some of the warmth and also it's calming. You have some carbohydrates in there from the lactose. One of the things that I like before bed too is tea or something called golden milk. And golden milk is, I take coconut milk and you can mix it with some turmeric and a little bit of honey. And that is very calming and relaxing at night too. So some people are asking about the blue light. Yes, blue light is emitted from our cell phones. It's emitted from electronics, basically. Also the light from our computer. So depending on the type of computer you have, I know iPhones, there's a night setting on your iPhone. You can go to your iPhone in settings, put on, and it will change the light to orange at a certain time of day. So a lot of times if I'm on my computer, I think I have mine set over to change over, I want to say even at 7 o'clock at night. My computer, if I'm on at that time, all of a sudden it gets this orange glow to it, and that's where the blue light has changed over to the orange light. So look at the settings on your phone and computers. You can change it. I also have not these glasses, but I have some other glasses that also just block the blue light. And so if I have my contact lenses in, they don't change my vision at all, but they just the glasses will block the blue light. So you can try that as well. Routine is really, really important. So having the same bedtime pretty much every day, whether it's during the week or on a weekend, it can be really, really helpful. So try to limit the fluctuations by no more than half an hour. I know that all of our routines have changed a little bit. Now that many of us don't have to get up at a certain time to go to work. I know some people are still going into work. And, if we have any healthcare providers and essential workers, thank you so much for going in for us. But for those of us who are, quarantined at home, our schedule, you don't want it to change too much. So decide what you want it to be. If 12 o'clock at night is when you want to go to bed and that's what works for you, that's fine. There's nothing to say that you have to stick with, 10 o'clock what you always did. But if 12 is the time that you've chosen, then try to stick with that. I have a timer set on my phone. And so at 10 o'clock, it goes off and it tells me, okay, Heidi, it's time to set your routine now. So time to start brushing your teeth, washing your face, taking the dog out. And that routine can be very relaxing because what you don't want to do is falling asleep maybe in front of the TV. And then a lot of times you're too tired to get up and go to bed. Has anyone had this where let me just watch another show because I'm too tired to actually go to bed. So in an ideal world, you would wind down and not have any electronics 1 hour before bed, especially anything with anxiety-provoking content. So you really want to avoid any sort of social media, any sort of news, something that's going to keep you awake and worried during that time. We know that exercise helps us to fall asleep much faster too, and it can help us improve the quality of our sleep. So one of the, for many reasons, one of the essential things, habits that we want to adopt during this time is number one, getting outside every day, and ideally getting a little bit of exercise every day too, and really beneficial. And then also lowering your core body temperature. As I had mentioned, our core body temperature naturally lowers based on our circadian rhythms. And if we can kind of move that along and bring that about a little bit quicker, that can help us to fall asleep a little more quickly. There was an interesting meta-analysis of 13 studies that showed that either a hot shower or warm bath 1 hour before bed, not only is it calming and relaxing, especially if you put in like oil of lavender or, something nice like that, a nice, aromatherapy, but paradoxically, it lowers our body temperature. We think, oh, you know, I'm nice and cozy and nice, toasty, warm after my bath. And when you get out, you do feel a little warm and toasty. But what happens is it draws some of your blood to your extremities and draws more. It's almost thinking of like, imagine it pulls out some of the warmth from your core and brings it more to the surface of your skin. And it not only helps you fall asleep faster, but these studies suggested that people's quality of sleep was better, and as well as the duration of their sleep. And it took people about 9 minutes to fall asleep. They fell asleep 9 minutes more quickly, versus, you know, some sleep aids, you know, it takes maybe, they work by helping you fall asleep more quickly, but it could take anywhere from, you know, 10 to 12 to even more minutes. So this, you know, the researchers suggested that this works as well as a sleep aid like Zolpidem or Benadryl or something like that, but without all the side effects. So definitely, you know, maybe you change your routine that you take a shower before bed instead of in the morning can be really helpful. Okay, also making your bedroom a sacred space. So we tend to have these strong correlations between locations and the habits that we do. If you think about it, what happens when you walk into your kitchen? Um, Good chance that when you walk into your kitchen, your mind says, oh, time for a snack, time for a little meal. Oh, what could I nibble on, right? And you weren't thinking about a snack before you walked into your kitchen, but now when you walk in your kitchen, you think, oh, well, that might be nice. The same thing goes for our bedroom. We want to walk into our bedroom, we want to see our bed, and we want to think, oh, it's time for bed. So what we don't want our brain walking into our bedroom and seeing our bed and saying, oh, it's time for TV, it's time for answering emails, it's time for planning, it's time for rehearsing things in our mind, it's time for replaying the day, it's time for texting, worrying, arguing, right? So ideally, we make our bedroom a sacred space. And so we make that connection that, okay, my bed is for sleep and it's for intimacy. It's not for all of these other things that we might, you know, do in bed as well, because we want that correlation to be really strong in our mind. And so those location correlations can really be very helpful sometimes. One, I had mentioned that there were a couple things that when this all started and I wasn't sleeping very well at night, you know, I made my room a little darker. I cracked my window open a little bit more to get some of that fresh, cool air in. And I also ordered myself on Amazon a weighted blanket. Does anyone use a weighted blanket? I'd be curious, you know, raise your hand if you use a weighted blanket. I love this. What it does is it's about 15 pounds. And what it does is it just kind of makes you feel cozy, and you have a little bit of extra weight on you. And it's I don't know the science behind it, but I have found it to be really, really helpful. And when I get into bed at night, I'm like, oh, I'm so cozy. However, you do the one thing that I have noticed about it is that if I don't crack my window open, it's way too warm, because it really does kind of keep in some of that extra warmth. So if you get one of these weighted blankets, get rid of some of your other blankets, just making sure that you're not too warm. So it is, I think the one that I got, I believe it was like $39. I'm also seeing that that they're also selling them in like CVS and Target now also sells them. So, you know, might be something to consider as well. All right. So we, you know, to some extent, many of us may have some form of insomnia now. What are some things that can help to not only get us to sleep, but more quickly, but if we're waking up during the night, how can we get back to sleep again? I would say probably one of the biggest things would be to adopt some relaxation techniques. So meditation, not only is it wonderful during the day, but you can also do it before bed if you're having a tough time getting to sleep, and you can also even do it in bed. And so what meditation does is it does change some of your brain waves, and it helps you to bring about this relaxed state that's much more likely to bring about sleep. Another thing that can be helpful too is a gratitude practice. So, just going through in your mind and focusing on what you have that's going well, that we do have to be thankful for. And it's physically impossible to be anxious and have a true deep feeling of gratitude at the same time. Those are two separate emotions that are very difficult to have together. So one thing that perhaps you can do, maybe you have meditation techniques or gratitude techniques that you don't need any extra help for, but perhaps even that you put in one earbud, maybe on the side that you're not sleeping on, and you listen to a guided meditation. Can be really helpful. What we're looking to do is kind of just turn your brain off. And that's where kind of this cognitive behavioral therapy can come into play as well. And that's, cognitive behavioral therapy changes some of our thought patterns. And so, it's training your body to associate bed with sleep. And one of the important things too is that when we're not sleeping, that if we are waking up in the middle of the night and our thoughts are racing, how can we change some of those thought patterns? And one of the things to do too would be to get up during the middle of the night. If we can't sleep and it's taking more than half an hour to go back to sleep, get up, go read a book, go do something non-stimulating, such as, I have an old textbook, my old biochemistry textbook. I know I'm a huge nerd. So it's my biochemistry textbook from college. And it's just interesting enough to me that I do want to kind of leaf through it a little bit, but let's face it, it's pretty boring overall. So, 10 minutes of that and I'm ready to go back to sleep. So finding something that maybe it's a hobby or something that you can do if you are getting up in the middle of the night and that you can do and then go back to bed. What are some other things that can help? Ideally, if at all possible, we'll talk about some herbal things that you can do, but if at all possible, you do want to avoid sleep medication, insomnia medication. They all come with side effects. And so they're great maybe just during this period now to help you get through. If you really have a lot of anxieties and worries, to do it on the short term, but really not for the long term. Antidepressants would be the one thing that maybe you would want to consider. Some antidepressants can come with a lot of anxiety reducing benefits, but that being said, they also have side effects. Diphenhydramine or Benadryl, also I know a lot of people take that, but it also comes with side effects. And there's been some we kind of think of Benadryl as not kind of being this pill that we just pop and don't think twice about it. But a lot of more interesting research is coming out that correlating potentially dementia in older people and long-term use of Benadryl. So a night or two, not a big deal. For a month or two, probably not a big deal, but really not something that you want to get into on a long-term habit. So what can you do? Some other sleep aids, aromatherapy, so lavender, vanilla, jasmine, all of these are great. I'm seeing some questions about melatonin, so let's address melatonin. Melatonin can, the studies are a little mixed, but many studies do show some benefit. So you want to start with really the lowest dose melatonin, anywhere from 0.5 milligrams, and then going up to 3 milligrams. So start with the smallest dose, see what works for you. Different foods also have, food just naturally has melatonin. So eating a whole real foods, tomatoes have a little bit of melatonin in them, but our brain produces melatonin. And so if I take this supplement occasionally, it's actually CBD. And sleepy D can be oil, can have a lot of calming effects. It doesn't have any of, it comes from the same plant as a pot plant, but marijuana, but it doesn't have any of those, effects that we don't want from it. So this has CBD, it has melatonin in it, and it also has, I'll show everybody this, it also has some other things in it. It has GABA in it. GABA is an amino acid, and it helps to inhibit some of our brain activity. It's very, very calming. So, and then it also has some passion flower. So even just a tea, this is an herbal tea that I also like. It's called Well Rested. This is from Trader Joe's, but you can, get various sleepy time teas at other places. And this also contains the chamomile, the passion flower. Valerian is also another root that's been associated with sleeping. So all of those might be helpful. If you do the tea, do it an hour before bed. Don't do it right before you go to bed. And also don't, have a huge mug. I like my little small mug here. You can't really maybe see it very well, but it's not a huge mug, and it kind of reminds me, hey, don't drink a lot of liquid before bed. Otherwise, you're going to have to get up in the middle of the night. And lastly, too, one thing that might be helpful is magnesium. Magnesium is very calming as well. And so taking a magnesium supplement before bed may also be helpful. So with that, in summary, for the best life possible, get as much sleep as you need. For weathering this storm, it too shall pass. But in the meantime, doing everything that you can to give yourself the best sleep possible. So let me see. Have I answered all the questions? It is 1:31, so our presentation is officially over, but let me just scroll through the questions and see what we have here. So occasional supplements, melatonin, valerian, yes. I think that those can be really helpful. Let's see, anything else? Oh, this is huge. Somebody wrote down journaling, what's on your mind, keeping you up. Love this. So there's two different ways that you can do this. You can do this before you go to bed, earlier in the evening. So if you have a lot of worries, you can write them down before you go to bed. And so it kind of reminds you like, okay, nothing else I can do about it. I've written them all down. Or even when you're waking up in the middle of the night, I have a little journal next to my bed. I can write down what's worrying me so that I don't have to keep on to that thought. And your brain knows like, oh, okay, I can let that go. It's written down. I can look at it tomorrow, and it's not going to be, an issue. Let me see if I'm seeing any other questions here that we didn't answer before. I see somebody says having a shower helps too, and a clean, fresh bed. Yes, before bed. Oh, someone wrote that they were leery of the weighted blankets. Anyone else have any experience with that? For me, I love it. It works very well. Do supplements help you stay asleep? My major problem is staying asleep. I always wake up. Yeah, I honestly, I don't, with the melatonin, I don't know how much that would help you stay asleep. With some of the other strong supplements too. Some of it honestly goes back to how fast a metabolizer you are. Not to get too dorky or nerdy, but we have genetically, we metabolize different chemicals, different things at a different rate. So some people are fast metabolizers of drugs, such as caffeine, and other people are slow metabolizers. So depend on whether you're fast or slow metabolizer of particular drugs might also depend how long some of those things will keep you asleep. So, maybe experimenting with maybe some other different types of, sleep supplements and see if it helps you stay asleep a little bit longer. I see somebody else loves their weighted blanket. So just let me see if there's any other questions here. But I see some people signing off, so thank you for those that are leaving. I really appreciate you joining me here today, and hope that you all stay safe and healthy and well and get a good night's sleep. So Thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to keep the questions open. I'll turn my video off for now. Oh, I see I have 2 new messages. So thank you so much, everyone.